Fellow songwriters, Trey Xavier here. Today I am going to attempt to dissect this absolute banger of a Jimmy Jam. Hellas, the winner of the 200K songwriting competition, and his track Wishing Well, which is so good. It's so good, and I'm going to try and figure out why that is. I'm going to try and figure out what it is exactly that I like about it, and what he did on this song to make it so good. Today's video is sponsored by Donner and this DST 200 guitar, which I think you just saw me knock against the desk a little bit. Today, and it is unharmed. You will note unharmed, because it's extremely well made for not that much money. I'll talk about it a little bit more in a little while, but for right now, let's take a deep dive into Wishing Well. And if you're interested in learning more about writing songs, you're definitely gonna wanna check out my new course, which is called Complete Rock and Metal Songwriting. I cover in depth a lot of the stuff that I'm gonna sort of touch on in this video. So for more about that, check out the link in the description below. The song's in the key of B minor. It's about 170 BPM. The song's structure is about as straightforward as it could possibly get. It starts with an intro, then there's a chorus, then a verse, then a pre-chorus, then another chorus, then a verse, a pre-chorus, a chorus. And then in lieu of a bridge, there is a guitar solo, which is extremely tasty. And then we have actually like a half of a chorus, weirdly enough, and then like a little outro solo. It's actually a little unusual, the way that it ends. It's probably the weakest part of the song. It doesn't really bother me that much because by the time we get there, I'm so satisfied by the rest of the song that I'm kind of just like, all right, whatever. The song is based around a 3-chord vamp, which includes the 6 chord, the 5 chord, and the 1 chord in B minor, which consist of some very beautiful and slightly unusual voicings. We've got basically a G add 9. Not super unusual, but very nice. Sets up a pretty specific flavor. And then this crazy thing, which is actually one of my favorite chords of all time. Very beautiful. This is like an F sharp minor add flat 13. Essentially F sharp minor, it's the 5 chord in the key of B minor. And then the last chord is a B minor. So the G is the 6 chord in the key. The F sharp is the 5 chord, and then B minor is the 1, so it's a 6, 5, 1. It's mostly these 3 chords, but one thing that I didn't notice right away is that in the chorus, the chords are half as long as they were in the verse. So they're sort of stretched out double as long during the verse, right? So and then in the chorus, it's That's another way to get a little bit more mileage out of the same types of sounds, the same chord progression. You can try just stretching it out or shrinking it a bit. So even though it's mostly those 3 chords around and around throughout the majority of the song, there's these big spicy chords that happen at very key moments that set up these really high tension transitions into the next part. So Hellas himself, Mr. Anton Helgren, was very kind to send over the stems for this song. So let's start with the intro, which is this sidechain synth guitar. This is the sidechain synth thing. It's like pumping, like. Cool, and then we get this tasty drum fill. We're off to the races. Right into a chorus. Glorious, glorious syncopation all over this track. Keeps it moving the whole time. Really bouncy and fun rhythms. So we're treated to a pretty big saturated version of the chorus right out the gate. In such a short song with a pop format and a pop feel, you kind of got to go for the throat sometimes, where you really got to get people's attention very quickly. Sometimes the difference between the choruses is very small because you still want to give it to them pretty big at the beginning. The bass line is pretty exciting and active for this song. Very syncopated, really keeps it moving. Then there's this clean guitar thing. Then we add in the synth. That's so cool. Coupled with the heavy guitars. Backup vocals. It all comes together to support the lead vocal, right? What I like about that is that all the parts are sort of interlocking. They occupy distinct rhythmic spaces and work together to keep the whole groove going. They're not all doing the same thing, which is kind of a typical metal problem. Everybody does the same thing all the time, which is a very powerful sound and feeling. And actually, at the end here, everybody kind of comes together to do this little... This is a very important and powerful moment in the song. It's the hook. And so he's accented it with this part where the guitar, bass, backup vocals, and maybe just that, and the lead vocal, of course, are all kind of playing the same thing. It's called tutti, and that means like all together. So now we're into the verse, and everything gets a bit more sparse. If we solo out the synth, we can hear that he's rolled off the top end with the filter cut off, so, right? That leaves a lot more room in the track, and the bass is playing more staccato, leaving a lot more room. And then the guitar is playing something very sustained. Doesn't seem like a lot going on. There's actually a little tricksy thing that he's doing here. Check this out. Change where that last note goes. I love that. Super tasty. See how just that little bit of an offset really pulls you along, sets up an expectation, and then gives you just a little surprise. So now we're coming up on one of those spicy chord changes that I was talking about. This sets up the move to the pre-chorus so strongly. I like this a lot. Check it out. So why are you here at the surface? Pulling me back, what's the purpose? To leave me on now as I'm letting go, letting go, letting go. So all that he's done here is taken the one chord, which is B minor, and turn it into B7. So it's still a B, it's still the one chord, but now it's a 1 dominant 7, and you're expecting this. So once again, surprise after surprise. And plus, if we go to E, then it sort of sets up a complete key change, and rather than doing that, we just go back to the 6 chord here. The melody is constructed of this cool little staccato pattern that just has a nice little rhythmic twist to it. It sort of starts in a different place in the measure. The place that it lands in the measure every time is really what gives it the feeling that it's moving a lot. And I think that has more movement than something with a ton of notes that goes all over the place. So that sets us up for this dreamy pre-chorus where everything is wide open. Now the bass is doing footballs, just about whole notes, backup vocals that are gorgeous. Whoa! Ah! Oh, that cuts me so deep. It's like the Lion King or something. I don't know what that is, but it is beautiful. Along with the clean guitars. Cool little guitar lick to set up that chorus transition. And then what I call the Two Princes drum fill. You ever hear that song, Two Princes by the Spin Doctors from the 90s? 1, 2, princes, are you? I love the 90s. Shut up. Now our second spicy chord change. These first chords, just the same ones from before. And then this chord we have not heard throughout this whole song, and it's not in the key. It's not in the key of B minor. It's a C major 7. So it's a flat 2 major 7 chord. That is a baller change. I love this in a minor key. Still takes us back to G. So big surprising chord change, huge high tension setup, big drum fill, guitar lick, into the chorus. Chorus 2 now. As far as I can tell, the second chorus is exactly the same as the first one. Doesn't seem like there's anything different. But then we get dropped into the second verse, and there's some very, very key changes that he makes here. Drums are out. And then cool guitar riff. I think no matter what, something about your second verse should be different from the first. A little bit louder and a little bit worse. Bringing it way down is also a really cool move. And what Hellas did here is both. He took it way down, dropped out the drums, no guitar, and then this ultra tricksy riff. You sneaky little bastard. Once again, just a very small displacement, but because he set it up beforehand as being a very certain way, when it's not there and when it's moved just slightly off, that little pulling the rug feeling, I don't know, it does it for me. I think that's genius. And just moving it through the chords, right? We're starting on B. Moving it to G. F sharp. This guitar part also serves to crank up the intensity of the second verse, making it different, more intense, more exciting than the first verse. I talk about this a lot in my songwriting course, but I honestly feel like every single time you bring back a part in a song, it should have grown at least a little bit, and that just means it should develop somehow. That way it feels like you're going somewhere. So on that same note here, in this pre-chorus, he's added a couple of different elements. So we've added a side stick to the drums. Then we've also got this lead guitar that's been added in, a harmony. And this kind of chickas all together. Here's the second pre-chorus. You'll notice no drum fill this time, just this little vocal swell thing. It kind of highlights the word that comes before the chorus, which is deep into deep dive. And it was a really good move for him to land the word dive right on the one, because it feels like you're diving, right? Deep dive. So that drops us right into chorus 3, which adds a bunch of cool stuff. We've got these call and response vocal parts here in the harmony.
Used to let go of you now, even though I know I'm drowned.
Kind of R&B style. Guy's got a really nice voice. The guitars have filled out quite a bit more since the last one. So in addition to this sort of picky thing, he's added in these higher voiced sustained chords. Then this ultra tasty guitar solo. So many awesome little tasty phrases in there. Good phrasing, in my opinion, is much more important than almost anything else, especially when it comes to playing a solo. And then something a little bit unusual. Instead of a typical double chorus like you might hear in a pop song, we've got a half chorus. A chorus that's half as long as anything that we've heard so far. And then another little solo. I actually find the ending of this song to be a little underwhelming. I feel like he should have put a bit more of a button on it. There's nothing like terribly wrong with this. It sounds good, but it doesn't really land. It feels a little awkward at the end. I feel like he should have just put one more chord at the end here, but it's not my song. I didn't write it. That's just kind of, to me, what would make it feel a bit more finished and complete. The final chorus has more ad-libs on top of it, and it also adds this really cool little funky clean guitar thing that I think is sort of lost in the final mix. That's just something that happens. Sometimes you add a bunch of really cool parts, and some of them just don't really wind up making the cut. It does add a little bit, but it's very subtle. The part is great, though. Check this out. Super simple, but once again, top-notch phrasing. That part alone is really memorable, moves the part forward. Awesome. I'll crank up mine so that we can hear it a bit better. Give it a little bit of a boost. Boost it! So as I was saying earlier, this is the DST 200 from Donner. This guitar is less than $200. You've been hearing it throughout this video. It sounds and plays really awesome. It's got all the same features as your sort of typical Fat Strat, except it's also got a push-pull in the tone knob so that you can get single coil sounds out of the humbucker. Sounds really great. Check out this guitar and others, as well as a bunch of other different kinds of sick music gear from Donner at the links in the description below. There's also gonna be a coupon code where you can save a bunch of money on your order. Let's take a closer look at the vocals. First of all, I want you to hear just the vocal tracks by themselves. Listen to this.
Deep dive, used to let go of you now, even though I know I'll drown. Trying to find help at the bottom of a wishing well. Deep dive, but I can't let go of you now. Guess I should have known I'll drown. Trying to find help at the bottom of a wishing well.
Those are some sublime harmonies. You can hear most of the chords as they pass just in the vocal harmonies. You could get the whole idea from just what's going on here. And then halfway through, he adds this other layer to it that, once again, halfway through the chorus, kicks it up another notch, keeps you interested. That is outrageously good. I really like soloing out key elements in a song and listening to like a couple different things against each other. Like, for example, we could listen to just the riff against the lead vocal.
I'm over than done trying. We played with borrowed time and buried all the lies, and now it all comes back around. We keep on trying to go water, but we ain't getting nowhere. But it's hard to let go when it's all you know, all you know, all you know.
So you hear how they work together really well. And I kind of feel like you should be able to solo out any two things within a song and hear them really working together and not fighting each other. That's a good way to figure out what's not working in a song. One of the things that makes a song feel really super cohesive is his consistent lyrical metaphor and the imagery being based around the same idea. There's sort of a water theme going on here because he's talking about a wishing well, which is a container for water. He talks about drowning. It's not like Henry Wadsworth Longfellow level of poetry, but this is something that you can take to your own songwriting, using very consistent imagery like that, making sure that the words that you're using bring the same feeling and sort of surround the same subject. You can sort of build a little vocabulary based around the theme of what the song is about, using words that are all related to each other, and that'll keep the listener sort of engaged and feeling like you want them to be feeling. In the end, this is kind of just one way to go about it. This is just like one recipe for a really great song. You can also have basically all of this stuff in a song, all these same basic ideas, and not have a great song. You could even have a terrible song. It's just stuff that you can do, and it's either gonna work or it doesn't. You shouldn't do any of this stuff just because I think it's cool. You have to execute it really well. You have to try different things and see if it works. You can do whatever you want in songwriting. You can write songs however you want, and they can be nothing like this and still be so, so great. And this is just one of many topics that I cover in my songwriting course, Complete Rock and Metal Songwriting. You can check that out at the link in the description. Huge thanks to Donner for sponsoring this video with the DJ T200 guitar. You can find out more about this guitar and all their other stuff also at the links in the description. Thanks to Hellas for sending over all the stems for this track so that I could pick it apart in front of my audience. He's very brave for letting me do this. I really appreciate it. And of course, huge congratulations, Hellas, to you for winning. I am just that much more convinced that I made the right decision, and I hope you really enjoy that amp. And I'll see you real soon.